Good evening. I'm Alan Joines, Mayor of Winston-Salem. It's my pleasure to call to order this January 17th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and would ask the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Thank you very much. Before we go into our typical moment of silence, I would just like to call the name of Annie Kennedy, who passed away today. Wonderful leader, not only for our city, but in the state of North Carolina. I believe she was the first African-American woman to serve in the state legislature. So let's please keep the Kennedy family in our thoughts and prayers tonight. But join the city council meeting in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. And would you join the city council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our Sergeant in Arms tonight is Lieutenant Oliver. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. We do have one honorarium tonight. When we have item H1, please.
I'm sorry, item H1, resolution honoring 2023 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers Award recipients, Nareni Martinez and Jose Salcedo. Whereas the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers Award was established by the Winston-Salem Human Relations Commission in 2009, and whereas the purpose of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers Award is to recognize two outstanding emerging or proven young adult leaders who reside in the city of Winston-Salem and have produced a meaningful result in community inclusiveness and race relations. And whereas the goal of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers Award is to encourage young adults to participate in philanthropic, altruistic community involvement, reflecting the spirit in which Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lived and encouraged others to live. And whereas the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers must be 18 to 40 years of age on or before January 17th, 2023. And whereas the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers are residents of Winston-Salem who have demonstrated outstanding work and dedication in the Winston-Salem community and can neither hold an executive leadership position within his or her organization nor be an elected government official. And whereas the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers have made a tangible difference in the lives of others who may have otherwise been overlooked, ignored, or disadvantaged. Specific examples include fostering positive race relations, vocalizing or acting against an injustice, leading inclusiveness among all individuals, embracing those who are perceived as being different, and celebrating religious diversity. The Young Dreamers civic and/or community-oriented work has resulted in tangible results benefiting disenfranchised persons in the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Jose Salcedo and Nareni Martinez are recognized and honored as the 2023 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers in the city of Winston-Salem, dated this 17th day of January 2023. Alan Joines, Mayor of Winston-Salem.
Thank you very much. Wanda Allen Abraha, you're representing her. Good. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor Joines and members of the City Council. My name is Melissa Thompson. I am the Vice Chair of the Human Relations Commission.
Good evening.
On behalf of our Chairperson, Robert Leake, and our Human Relations DEI Department's Director, Wanda Allen Abraha, we are happy to present to you the Human Relations Commission's 2023 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers. Nareni? I'll share a little bit about Nareni. In addition to performing her job at an exemplary level, Nareni demonstrates an extraordinary commitment to her role in the community and to the public. Nareni takes it upon herself to provide exceptional support and service to ESL, or English as a Second Language families in the Winston area. She quickly discerns their individual needs and moves to efficiently provide information, recommendations, or direction. In addition to this, and during times of transition in their lives, she has helped new families arriving in the area by providing babysitting options, healthcare providers, and schools. She is also known for her undertaking the provision of meals to low-income families. Another example of Nareni's impact on families is how she provides on-call interpreters in the school setting. We have heard many times from these families how Nareni's leadership has helped them have a positive experience within their children's school system. They feel heard, but overall they feel represented. Congratulations, Nareni.
Good.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you, God, for this opportunity, and I will never stop dreaming.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight, I present Jose Cecito. As a member of the Delta Alpha chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, Jose created and organized programming for the Winston-Salem State Campus and Winston-Salem community. This led him to do direct actions with peers that address gun violence and police brutality. Jose is a 2022 graduate, having received a degree in communications media studies. Jose's true passion is advocacy and community organizing, which he does through his work with Power Up North Carolina, an environmental organization that educates and organizes around environmental issues with low-income and Black and brown communities. Jose also partners with Professor Dr. Patterson Masuka at Winston-Salem State to educate students about environmental justice concerns to students attending Winston-Salem State, Ashley Academy, community members, and many more. I present Jose Cecito.
I have something written. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I want to start off by saying that I'm extremely honored and humbled to receive this award. Thank you for the Human Relations Commission for selecting me as one of two recipients of this award. Being a native of Winston-Salem, I have seen firsthand how low-income communities as well as Black and brown communities have been affected and overlooked. Even in my younger years, I was cognizant of the trials and tribulation that our minority groups go through, not only in Winston-Salem, but across the nation on a day-to-day basis. From gun violence, gang violence, police brutality, and environmental racism being a few of a long list of disparities we face. I find it appropriate to quote none other than Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King himself. The quote goes as follows: "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at a time of challenge and controversy." I completely agree with this statement. However, I believe a man's true strength comes from his support system. Even Dr. King couldn't do it by himself. By his side, he had James Farmer, John Lewis, A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, and Whitney Young, as well as his followers and many supporters. Together, these men were known as the Big Six. These 6 men were powerhouses during the Civil Rights era. With that being said, I would like to recognize and honor my support system. First, I would like to recognize my mother and father, Cynthia and Octavio Salcedo, for the values that they have allowed me they instilled in me to pursue change in the community that I live in. Second, I would like to thank the men of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, especially the brothers of the Great Delta Alpha chapter at Winston-Salem State University and the brothers of the Delta Sigma chapter of Winston-Salem. It was these brothers who inspired me by their leadership, their courage, and their will for change, not only on the campus of Winston-Salem State University, but for the city of Winston-Salem as well. These men helped mold me into the man that I am proud to call myself today, and I am glad to call this wondrous band of men my brothers. Thirdly, I would like to thank Power Up NC, specifically Ms. Yvette Jones, Reverend Robert Leak, Ms. Carolyn George, and Ms. Carrie Wiggins, and the rest of the wonderful Power Up NC staff. Thank you for believing in me and allowing me a platform to change my beautiful city of Winston-Salem. Lastly, but most definitely not least, I would like to thank all of my friends that are here tonight. Thank you for always being in my corner during my best and worst times, during my greatest accomplishments and my greatest tribulations. It is friends like this that makes this journey we call life more fulfilling, and I could never ask for better friends in my corner. If it wasn't for these people or entities that I have just mentioned, I would never be at the point that I am today. So for that, I thank all of you. So for any youth or those who see and are aware of the issues that we face not only in Winston-Salem, but in the world, please don't lose hope. Please do your best in your aspirations to create change, but not by yourself, but with a strong, like-minded people and a strong support system. I promise you, with that by your side, the possibilities and doors that will open will be never ending. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to both of you. Before we go into the agenda, council members, several of you have asked that we might ask our Assistant City Manager, Johnny Taylor, to give us a quick update on the leaf situation here in Winston-Salem. Mr. Taylor, if you would, please.
I'd like to say good evening, Mayor Joins, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, other members of the council.
Good evening. Good evening.
Tonight, I want to speak briefly, give an update, describe some of the challenges and our plans for improvement. So thus far, as we have gone into leaf collection, I'm certain that many of you have received calls this year. Where are all the trucks? When will they be here? And so I cannot give up this opportunity to fail to educate a little bit. So because our system is set up in quadrants, we approach these quadrants with all of our forces each year, and in the manner of trying to make sure that there is an equitable collection, we rotate the quadrants each year. So I've had calls, I've spoken to some residents today, and they said, well, you came to us first last year, but this year you've not gotten to us yet. What's going on? So I explained that we actually rotate the quadrants so that everybody doesn't start on the same routine each year. So just to give a quick glimpse of those quadrants, as you notice, those quadrants, each one of those affect many of you, as opposed to thinking that perhaps one elected official deals with one quadrant. So everybody is impacted. And so as we look at these quadrants tonight, this year we started in quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 took off in November, and we have been working ever since. So, Mr. Taylor, what's causing the delay? Here's the answer. There are some things that we're able to control, and then there are some things that we are not able to control. So let me just list a few of those. Number one, weather. Secondly, the timing of leaf falls. So what's happened this year is that we've basically had all 3 rounds of leaf collection to fall at one time. So when that happens, of course, you can only collect so many leaves per day. And so the piles are so large that it has caused us many delays and prevented us from moving around as fast as we've moved in the past. So I can assure you this, that each resident will receive 3 collections if they have leaves at the curb. So someone asked me today, how am I going to get 3 collections? Well, the truck will be by your location 3 times. Also, it's important to note that we have plans to improve this process. This has not gone unnoticed, and we have made efforts to roll out a plan that will be more effective in the future. We can't do anything about this perfect storm of leaves falling all at one time, but here are our plans. Number one, we plan to redesign the leaf map. Some of the calls that I've received speak to the fact that we're no longer giving an estimate. We plan to do that. And on top of providing estimates, we plan to allow residents to see our vehicles moving on the map. So the question of where they are will be answered. You'll be able to see the trucks as they're moving in real time. Also, we plan to change our system a little bit and operate some of our automated equipment in all 4 quadrants beginning when the season begins. So what we'll do, we'll use data, we will look at the tree canopies, we'll try to determine where best to utilize those vehicles, even though they will be in all quads, to make sure that we have a more effective plan. And I will probably be coming back to you with permission to request more flexibility, which means that because our climate is changing, there may be times where I ask or request that we collect earlier or maybe even later to have a more efficient and more effective program. So that being said, questions, be glad to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Monday.
Are you collecting leaves that have sticks in the piles?
Right now, we should be collecting everything. And so that's because brush collection has not ceased. We still have crews there. If you get a call from somebody who says that they've got a contaminated pile, please send it to the office. We will work to get that rectified as well.
Thank you.
Mr. McIntosh.
First of all, thank you for the report. It helps all of us out tremendously. We all know you're working hard, but it's good to have this update so that we can pass that on to our constituents. Can you talk a little bit about just the problems we've been having mechanically and the breakdown of vehicles and where we are now with that?
Sure. Our usual complement consists of 7 automated trucks along with about 15 pull-behind vehicles. So this year, we've been operating at about 50% of our equipment force. So that has caused some challenges, but I didn't want to come here and make excuses. But that has been a challenge for us. But we are up. We have more vehicles running right now, and as of today, we've got 7 automated leaf loaders, and we've got our full complement of pull-behinds on the streets.
It was a noticeable difference. I saw trucks out all over the place last week, and the best news I've gotten lately is that we have gotten a bunch of trucks back online. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clark.
Mr. Taylor, did you notice are leaves falling sooner? Should we start sooner?
Yes, sir. And that's a part of my probably showing back up again to ask permission for us to look at a little bit more flexibility so that we can make those adjustments to deal with the changing climate.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Do we still, are we still using contractors? Or we're not using any outside contractors?
The contractor is working on the brush side.
Okay.
To help us with that. So these are just our forces collecting leaves at this time.
Thank you.
The outside contractor's done a good job for getting caught up on that. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. Appreciate first of all, the job that you and your crews are doing, and thank you for this update. Well, of course, tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of 2 parts, the general agenda and the consent agenda. It's the practice of this council to take the consent agenda as the first order of business. Items on this agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city policy. There'll be no discussion of the items on this agenda unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed from the consent agenda will be enacted with one motion. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed on tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. and again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agenda as well as videos of previous meetings are always available to the public at our website, and just click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Councilmembers, we do need to pull item C16 from the general agenda. We need to hold a public hearing on that, and we will hold that public hearing on February the 6th. Are there other items that council members would like to pull? Councilmember Larson.
19, please.
I'm looking for something.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the
I didn't hear Councilmember Larson.
Oh, it's C19.
19, excuse me.
C19. I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilmember.
Yes, excuse me, C12.
I got on the wrong number, it's
See,
18.
what was that?
C12.
Regarding the time.
He said his is 18, you wanted to.
C18, all right. And C12 is Councilmember Adams.
12 and 8.
All right, and C16, 12, and 18, with a motion to approve the balance, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
Mine's not coming up. Yeah, it did now.
Mine didn't come up.
All right, everybody has voted yes. That's unanimous. We'll now go to item C12.
Item C12, resolution authorizing a contribution of $350,000 to Smart Starter Forsyth County for pre-K initiatives.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams asked for this one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rao. You can do a quick review, but I wanted Dr. Finney to come up as well to speak about some of the questions I put to him and his organization that you already know about. But I think it would be a good thing for the public, again, to see where these dollars are going and what they'll be used for when it comes to our community.
Good evening, City Council. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm Dr. Finney, President and CEO of Smart Starter Forsyth County. I'm here before you with any questions that you may have about the agenda item.
Yes, Dr. Finney, you know that some of the council members, again, and others in the community have been concerned about the money that we've allocated towards pre-K initiatives, or whether, you know, that it will be going to communities that have the need. And I wanted you to elaborate something on that as to how you're going to do that.
Okay. Just specifically, this is part of a large collaboration amongst several organizations in partnership with the county, as well as the public schools. And what we did as Smart Starter Forsyth County is we took the leadership in administering and transforming the entire community as it relates to pre-K. And really glad that actually the city really wanted to contribute, because what we're actually looking at is two things. One is workforce development. We're going to have a program that's going to actually be countywide, but also in the city, to try to really maintain and keep some of these child care centers open. What we found in the past 2 years is that 28% of the child care centers, specifically in Winston-Salem, have actually been closed due to COVID. So part of this money is going to actually be able to retain some of the staff who've lost their jobs to allow people to go to work. Then we also have a section that's going to be specifically to work in pre-K classrooms to do assessments on these children, to make sure that these kids who lost some of their learning in the past 2 years will get back some of that learning. So really proud that the city is really going to be coupled with this. And what we did differently this year is normally Smart Start works with the highest level of private child care. What we're doing right now is actually working at the level 2 and 3, those who actually lost some of their levels because of the pre-K loss in the past 2 years, and really looking at targeted communities, particularly in some of your census, that we found that actually was hit the worst. This is something that's really going to target specific minority women, particularly those that are low income, but also those child care centers that have closed. So it's a combination of workforce development to get people back to work, but also specifically to get these kids ready for public schools.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I get a motion, Councilmember?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of this motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
I'm not getting.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Now go to item C18.
C18, consideration of items relating to the city council and committees' meeting times, referred from December 5th, 2022 city council meeting held by Community Development Housing General Government Committee on December 13, 2022, recently recommended for approval.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Larson?
Yeah, there seems to be some confusion down here. What I was looking for is C19 dealing with the meeting times for city council and committee meetings.
This is what you got.
That's what you got.
Has it been renumbered? 'Cause I've got it down
This
as
is
19.
the item, John.
Okay, well, my computer's not showing that difference.
This is the item dealing with me.
That is the item I'm interested in, yes, sir, thank you.
Do you have a question, or?
Yes, I do. I'd like a briefing on this, and then I'd like a comment, please.
Okay, we have a staff to comment on this, Mr. Rao.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tempore Adams, and members of the City Council.
Good evening.
The item before you tonight, there are two actions. One is an amendment to the city code to change the meeting time for the City Council's regular meetings. You can see here on the table the recommended times that came out of the Community Development Housing General Government Committee meeting. So the zoning meeting on the first Monday and the regular meeting on the third Monday would change from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then there's a resolution that would change the times and the order of the committee meetings. And you can see again on the table that Public Safety Committee would meet on the second Monday. That time would change from 6 to 2 o'clock. And then the Community Development Housing General Government Committee would change from Tuesday to the second Monday and meet at 4 o'clock. And then on the second Tuesday, Public Works Committee would meet at 2 o'clock. So that's a change from 6. And then the Finance Committee would be the last committee to meet on that second Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Larson, you have questions?
Yes, I have some comments. I'd like to make an alternate motion, I think initially, and I have some alternate motions. One is that this be sent back to committee. I've received a lot of comment, as I'm sure everybody else has, regarding the public exposure to this particular topic, and I've received they're asking for a public hearing on it. I suggest we send it back to committee and let them hold a public hearing, then bring it back to full council at the next meeting.
So you offer a substitute motion to refer this back to the committee?
Motion at this time. Yes.
Is there a second to that motion? Motion fails for lack of a second.
Being no second to that, I have alternate motion would be that it has two parts to it. One dealing with the council meeting to be moved, and that's in the resolution. And that's in the ordinance change, and the other one deals with the changing of committees. I would like to have that split into two parts, and we vote separately on the two motions.
Okay, you can certainly ask it to be bifurcated. So do I have a motion on the first part dealing with the ordinance on the council meeting?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is a motion to approve changing the council meeting times to 6 p.m. All those in favor of that motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
I'm still not coming. I'm in favor of it, but I have yet to vote on
Understand.
anything tonight.
So the motion passes with 7 in favor, 1 opposed. Councilmember Taylor voting negative on this. The second part of that motion then is to deal with the committee meeting times. I would entertain a motion to approve those changes as proposed.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion and a second. Councilmember Larson.
Yeah, this one I find particularly troublesome. Of course, coming here in the dark today for this general meeting is a good example of why maybe we should move it to 6 o'clock, try to get a little better daylight and a little better participation. I don't view that as being a particular obstacle to public participation. However, the moving of the council committee meetings is, I think, a significant change. And as Lincoln would say, for the people, by the people, and of the people. This doesn't seem to really be about the people, does it? It seems to be about elected, paid staff and city council members who want to change the work schedule to be a little more friendly or compatible to their needs. The proposal may, in fact, make their life easier, the staff and officials, but I don't think it does much for the public at large who have to leave their jobs or have to leave their homes in the middle of the day, find caretakers and what have you, to allow them to participate in government. Let's face it, that there's a lot of discussion about going electronic to be on the Channel 13 or delayed broadcast. Various electronic conveyances are not the same as meeting in person, and we discovered that during COVID and certainly during Zoom meetings, that face-to-face meetings are more effective in public participation, be able to meet the staff and to meet the council members in person before and after meetings is important as meetings themselves. Citizens are not paid to participate. City council members are elected to participate, and city staff is paid to participate as part of their job description. I think we need to respect the time and the needs of our individual citizens, and I think suggest that we maintain the current schedule as proposed. The other thing that has come to my mind, we're talking about trying to get diversity on city council, getting younger members, perhaps that are employed or running businesses of their own, on council, and this is not going to help our recruiting of them, even if it may help recruiting staff. It probably is not going to help recruiting the council members who will now have to give up the middle of the day for their work. It seems to me this is just a bad ordinance and not necessarily appropriate for us to be changing it for the benefit of the paid staff and the council members, and the public at large suffers in the process. So I recommend denial. I will be voting against this.
All right, we do have a motion and a second to approve the changes for the committee structure as proposed. All those in favor of the motion would please vote yes. Anyone opposed would vote no.
Mayor, can I clarify, this is the motion that is on our, that was presented to us on our?
Yes, correct.
And Mayor, I did not second that motion.
Okay.
Looks like it's
I
on-
did.
Councilor
I seconded
McIntosh
it.
seconded this motion. Thank you, Councilmember Taylor.
Robert has messed it all up.
My computer's all messed up. I am in favor of the ordinance.
Just 1 second, please. Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties. It should be popping up now.
Thank you.
We're not gonna vote.
Still not up?
Okay, the motion passes with 6 in favor, 2 opposed. Councilmember Larson, Councilmember Taylor voting in the negative. Thank you all very much. We'll now go back to the general agenda, which is just comprised of one item. That's an item relative to development at 1001 South Marshall Street. Council members, there are still remaining a number of questions on this item. They're still being worked on. So without objection, I would ask that we send this back to Finance Committee, Mr. Clark, for some additional work, if you would accept it.
I am in favor of that and would make a motion if you need it.
I think if without objection, we can do that.
Yeah.
I don't see any objections, so we'll just send it back to your
Thank you.
committee. Thank you very much. May we have the next item, please?
Mayor, I don't believe there are any other items on the
Public
general
comment.
agenda. Oh, yes, we do have public comment period.
Thank you. This is a time once per month that we invite citizens to address the city, me and the city council on matters that are germane to city government. We'd ask that you give your name and address for the record, as well as limiting your comments to 3 minutes. And we do set aside 30 minutes for this public comment period. First person signed up is Harold Day. We'll let you get there, Harold.
Harold Day, 1422 South Main. COVID about killed me, folks. But I'm here to talk about my favorite thing. Guess what that is?
I can't imagine.
Can't imagine. Did all of you get my letter I sent to you?
Yes, we did.
Well, 3/4 of a mile away at Forest Park is not convenient for people with small kids to walk. Part of the street don't have a sidewalk, especially where the utilities is. And I'm going to make a proposal to use the field at Civitan Park. If the city does not have any money to do it, I have volunteers who will cut a right-of-way in there. It won't be a fancy one, but it will be an access to people coming and going and parking that field. Now, this is the 75th year of Bowman Gray Stadium. The last year, it was on the internet, on Flow TV, streaming, all over the world. People come. Mississippi over there, she's a cheerleader. You ought to see her in action, getting up and hollering and hooping. But I invite all of you to come. But walking from Forest Park is not the solution. Majority of the people that come have families. Well, kids are excited at 6:30 and 7 o'clock, but at 10:30, 11 o'clock, they ain't excited no more. They're tired. They're whining, going home. I want to make sure that we can get the parking. I don't know what we got for the 4-lane parking where the road is. The state bought all that land from us, or would they give it? I don't know if we give it to them or not. So what I'm saying is, we need Civitan Park. Now, Washington Parks is in the same floodplain, and y'all asphalted that, and it was underwater a couple weeks ago. We don't need no asphalt. We just need permission to cut through a little road through there. It don't have to be a fancy 4-lane road to meet any kind of handicap. There's a footbridge over there that don't even have no floorboards in it. In my younger days, we'd have played on that bridge just to get across. But I'm asking y'all, with a nod's all I need, at no expense to the city, we'll cut a little right-of-way through there. It's already a curb cut in the sidewalk across from the waterworks. Don't know why it's there. Don't seem nobody knows why it's there. But I don't know how much revenue the stadium brings in versus the ballpark. But I'd say it's a whole lot more. Mr. Rowell, I'd like to challenge you to park at Forest Park and walk your kids to the stadium. Would you do that for me? Thank you for your time, and I would do it at no cost to the city. All I gotta do is make some phone calls, and we'll have it in before racing season. It's the 75th anniversary of the stadium, the oldest racetrack in the country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Appreciate it. Next speaker will be Mr. James Evans. Mr. James Evans.
Good times.
All right, Joanne Allen.
Good evening. Joanne Allen, P.O. Box 284, 27102. Good evening to all the very good people of Winston-Salem. You have seen me before, come before the City Council numerous times since 2013 with my concerns on how our tax dollars have been used. Now you are witnessing and feeling the effects of years of poor leadership when it comes to the state of the progress of the actual people who helped put the name of Winston-Salem on the world's map. I didn't say the local map, I said the world's map. Progress is measured not by how many new buildings or restaurants we now have in our city, but how well the people have improved in their quality of life. Are there more people homeless and suffering? Yes. Do more people have to work 2 or more jobs just to make ends meet? What's to become of our children killing one another because of easy access to guns and weapons? Oh, what a web we weave when we first practice to deceive. Elections are no longer about putting people in positions to make good decisions so that the people will benefit, but to make sure that campaign contributors get their incentives when due. If you, the public, have had enough, we're asking that you continue to join forces with us to make sure that the state and the federal government continue to investigate the city government of Winston-Salem and others. The last thing I would like to say is directed to all who has been, in my opinion, disrespectful to Councilman Mr. John Lawson. At the community development meeting last week and on several other occasions, when Mr. Lawson is speaking, he is sometimes very rudely and abruptly cut off. After last week, we now see why there's a request for the change in the city meeting times. Most of you all are ready to just go home. Forget the public and what their concerns are, your actions, once again, your actions show us that you just don't care. I got 30 seconds left, and I just want to say this very quickly. This is 2023, and if you thought we were something from 2013, watch our smoke. Thank you.
Ornetta Miles.
Anita.
Excuse me.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mel Pro Tem Adams, City Council members.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ms. Miles, would you state your name for
Arnita Miles, 494 Smithdale Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, East Ward resident.
Thank you.
I am a child of the Jim Crow South. I stand on the shoulders of Emmett Till. I am a U.S. Army veteran with 23 years of service. I am probably one of the few people in Forsyth County as a black female that went into active combat and served this country. As a former law enforcement officer of this community, if I was asked my opinion about who the next chief of police should be in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, did the citizens of Winston-Salem receive a fair opportunity to discuss that with each and every one of you? The process that's coming up on the 19th, where you're asking us to submit our questions to city staff, and they may be asked by a community panel to address the top 3 candidates, is that acceptable? We had a 12-year-old little girl who got murdered here in Winston-Salem Saturday. Are you not outraged? I am. If I felt Assistant Chief William Penn was the best candidate to be the chief of police, don't I deserve as a citizen and taxpayer of Winston-Salem to be able to discuss that with you? Haven't I earned that? I put on a badge for each and every one of you. And y'all, do you respect my opinion? Do you listen not only to me, do you listen to the citizens that elected you? The record speaks for itself. You didn't listen to the 57.4 on that survey about changing the meeting times. Are we going back to 1955 where they didn't care about listening to the public? It's 2023. That 12-year-old deserves better from this community. You all should be outraged about her death. Choose the best police candidate for Winston-Salem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miles. Matthew Myers.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Matthew Mayers. I live at 2844 Wesleyan Lane. First, I would just like to express deep gratitude to City Manager Lee Garrity for many years of dedicated service to this community. I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude. And I wish him the very best as he looks forward to a well-deserved retirement later this year. For those of you on the council, I hope that you will be able to find a person who is equally competent at running the city's bureaucracy for the next manager. We need that. We need a person who will be a faithful steward of our resources. And we need, because we're going into a new world where our leaves fall earlier, we need a person who will be a passionate champion for sustainability and environmental justice. We need that. I think you all agree with me, actually, because a couple of years ago, you passed a resolution outlining some pretty ambitious goals for decarbonizing city emissions in the operations. They were more or less in line with international efforts to avoid the worst of climate change, those worst effects that always fall first and worst on those who have the least. Unfortunately, more than 2 years later, at least according to the city's sustainability office reports, there hasn't been much progress. I think, if you'll permit me a small criticism, the reason is that there's no plan. You didn't follow up the resolution of goals with a directive to the city staff to say, give us a detailed roadmap of how we're going to achieve those goals. That needs to happen. And you might be thinking, yes, that's the thing that we'll ask a new city manager to do. And of course, that person will need to be involved. But there's really no time like the present to start. I'm reminded of the old refrain, when is the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When is the second best time? Today. There are things that can and should be done even before a full plan can be completely drawn out and approved. I'll give you one example before I stop speaking. There's a lot of money on the table from the federal government right now. For the next approximately year, you're going to have an opportunity to buy a lot of electric vehicles if you want to before the new requirements kick in for domestic content. After 2024, it's going to get hard for a while. I would say we should start now buying as many as we can for a while and then take a breather. I'll be back to talk more on at other meetings, but thank you again for the time and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Magnus.
Good evening. My name is Julie Magnus, 630 Fenimore Street, 27103. And I'm here to talk about the increasing feeling of transparency just being shut down. I'm opposed to the meeting change times. I have never in my life had a 9-to-5 job. I have always had to work odd hours. Those hours can put me out there at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, weekends. It isn't convenient for everybody, which is what I'm hearing, is that it's hard to retain staff. Two largest employers here in Winston-Salem, and they run shift work. You've got people running 3 shifts. 9 to 5 isn't an option for a lot of people. Really disappointed that there was a survey run by the city that indicated the meeting time changes weren't desirable. There was another one run by the citizens, and those results don't even seem to have come into discussion as to how people felt about the meeting times. 2 o'clock is a really, really hard time for a multitude of people to try to get to a meeting. I know the meetings aren't very heavily attended. Some of that might have to do with the fact that you never know if you're going to be able to speak at a meeting or not. If you're like me, it seems like every time I go on the website, it's different trying to find the agenda. It took me about 5 minutes just to find where I might be able to pull up the agenda. I know it wasn't put up until, I don't think, today for this meeting, because it seems to be in a different spot. So I think it's tough for the community to get out there. We used to have area plans. I know area plans seem to be a thing of the past, but it made the community feel connected, even if it was, one plan for every new area. What's the game plan? What's going to happen where the terrible erosion is? Does the city really have a plan up around the airport? We read about a plan for Runnymede in the paper. I just think that there are a lot of us that are feeling like we're being cut out. So transparency, the change in meeting times, I don't think that that's helping the view of the city council. I know I've also heard, well, we need to be talking to our council members, sending emails. Well, sometimes those emails just don't get answered unless it is one where a council member happens to be in agreement flat out, no response, not even thank you, I received that email. And real quick, I'm going to move on to the leaf collection. We were socked, unfortunately, this year with Ian, which I know dumped 3 yard carts full of stuff on just my front yard. That was, what, 5-6 weeks ahead of when we actually started leaf collection, which was
Thank you, Ms.
later.
Mangus. Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just think planning could be a little better. I appreciate your time.
Jason, I can't quite make it the last name. Is it Tortian?
All right, good evening. My name is Jason Torian, 959 Molly Mooney Road, Roxborough, North Carolina. Not a citizen of Winston-Salem, but I am speaking on behalf of some of the citizens in the Piney Grove community. I work for Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League, and we've been working with them with some issues relating to the Winston Weaver fire plant. As you all know, we're quickly approaching the anniversary date of that fire. So I'm here to remind you that a year ago, while we're all relieved that there wasn't an explosion, there are still some challenges that remain. Winston-Salem was in the spotlight immediately following that fire because, you know, the media likes good pictures. And when you have big pictures of big plumes of smoke and a huge fire, the story kind of writes itself. But when it all went away, so did the lights and cameras. But the people who experienced that, they didn't go anywhere. Those folks are concerned about the long-term health impacts of the smoke and the fumes that they breathed in. They're concerned about public safety response on the night of the fire. They're concerned about how the soil and water might have been impacted. They're also very concerned that the owners of the Weaver plant might not ultimately be held accountable for the damages done to their community. The list goes on, and we've shared that list with the Winston-Salem Public Safety Committee and North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. And we hope to work with all of you to address those concerns. So tonight, I just want to make sure that you all continue to be aware that these folks are here. They still have concerns, those that we've listed, and some others that we haven't. But one of their big concerns, one of their chief concerns, is that working class communities like Piney Grove and other communities like theirs shouldn't be sacrifice zones when it comes to industrial pollution and industrial neglect. So as the anniversary of that date approaches, and as you make decisions related to that site and others like it, I hope you'll keep all of that in mind. And, you know, it's important to acknowledge what the council has done so far. I mean, you provided a small amount of financial assistance to the residents immediately following the fire. You recently changed some zoning laws to prevent the plant from reopening there, and you should be commended for that. But ultimately, the council is going to be judged by how you handle the situation when the lights and cameras are gone. So thanks again, and we look forward to working with you all in 2023 to address some of those concerns.
I'll say so.
Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem, Madam.
Yes, I just want to let you know that we are having a meeting January 31st at Haynes Hosiery, and I'd like to discuss something with you because the agenda is being put together. There will be updates about the Weaver fire. There will be updates from public safety and other issues, as well as those other organizations like yours that have been working with the residents of the Weaver fire area since it happened over a year ago. I'm sure I'm also in touch with some of the attorneys that they can come to, you know, but again, as you said, we can't just act like this didn't happen. We were blessed that nobody was harmed, hurt, or killed. But I think it's very important, and I did tell some of the residents that this meeting would be happening around the anniversary of Weaver to pull attention to them again so they can tell their story. So I look forward to being in touch with you after this meeting.
Thank you. Sabrina Webster.
Good afternoon, Mayor Jones, Alderman Adams, and the City Council. My name is Sabrina Webster. I was born and raised in the Piney Grove community. I still live in the Piney Grove community, and I'm a member of the Piney Grove Leader Change. The Piney Grove community have been fighting the Weaver fertilizer plant for a long time. The elders in the neighborhood, such as Vasti McNeil, Ms. Gladys Palmer, Sophia Brown, my parents, fought for the removal of the Weaver fertilizer plant years ago. When the fire occurred, January the 31st, almost a year as of today, our neighborhood are still suffering from the smoke and the fire. I get very emotional because I can still smell the smoke, and I had to evacuate my home. Alderman Adams is very aware of our concerns and our unanswered questions. I've called her office several times. I didn't know about the meeting on January the 31st.
The flyers are going, they went out today.
So thank you so very much. I would like to take time also to thank Alderman Taylor for taking time out meeting with us. Even though it wasn't his district, he still took time out to meet with us. And I have a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King, and it says, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." So thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. That is all the individuals who had signed up tonight, so I will close the public comment period. Council members, as you know, we do have a need for a closed session, and I would recognize Councilmember Taylor for a motion, please.
Mayor, members of the council, I move that the Winston-Salem City Council go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A4 regarding the location of a business within corporate city limits of the city of Winston-Salem.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to go into closed session, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. That's unanimous. We'll go in closed session, and I guess we're going to Need a couple more. A couple more bodies. Mr. Larson. We have a motion to end the closed session.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember McIntosh, seconded by Councilmember Taylor to end the closed session. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, no. We're out of the closed session. We're back in the open session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Clark to adjourn, seconded by Councilmember Taylor. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, no. We're adjourned.